In a quiet corner of a Marine Corps base, a single dad in a faded uniform walked in with his little girl, expecting nothing more than a simple open house day. But when a young Marine jokingly asked him, "What's your rank, single dad?" no one in that tent was prepared for the answer he gave, or how it would freeze every heartbeat in the room. Before we step into this unforgettable story of humility, honor, and the quiet strength of a father who never sought recognition, we'd love to have you join our community. If you enjoy heartfelt stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us of the goodness still in this world, feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss the next moment of hope. Now, let's begin. The late morning sun filtered gently through the canvas walls of the GP tent, casting a warm amber hue across the bustling, open house event at Camp Ridgeway. Families wandered between static displays, children pointed at Humvees, and veterans chatted with active duty Marines under the shade of the massive green tents. It was a rare day where the base opened its doors, where civilians, retirees, and service members shared the same dusty paths. Aiden Cross didn't stand out in the crowd. That was how he preferred it. He walked quietly beside his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, holding her small hand as she bounced with excitement. She wore a bright yellow sundress and a pair of sneakers that lit up every time she skipped. Aiden, tall, lean, and calm-eyed, wore an old utility blouse, the shade faded from years of wash and sun. Some places were frayed. Some seams had been stitched more than once. He looked like a man who kept things long past their service life, because they still worked. "Daddy, look!" Lily tugged his hand, pointing at a display where Marines demonstrated how to pack a field ruck. "They have so many pockets. That's how they hide snacks." Aiden replied softly, and Lily giggled. They stepped into one of the largest GP tents, cooler inside, filled with cots, gear tables, and a handful of Marines chatting with visitors. Most of them were young, energetic, and loud, in the way only 20-something service members could be. Their banter bounced off the canvas walls. Aiden guided Lily around a group of Marines sitting on their cots. She stopped to examine a helmet, her eyes wide. "Careful with that, sweetheart," Aiden murmured. His voice was steady, gentle, like someone who'd spent years learning to speak softly in a world that often shouted. But his presence didn't go unnoticed. One Marine, a lanky kid with a regulation short buzz cut, elbowed the woman beside him. "Hey, Sevie, look." "Bella." Sevie turned. She was in Marpat camis. Sleeves rolled her dark hair pulled into a precise bun. Confident, sharp-eyed, and known around the unit for her loud laugh and sharper tongue. She sized Aiden up, worn uniform, mysterious demeanor, the kind of quiet that made some people uneasy. "Sir," she called out playfully. Aiden looked up politely. Bella grinned, wide, pointing a teasing finger at his chest. "All right, single dad. What's your rank?" Her tone was joking, the kind used to poke fun at someone wearing old gear. Around her, a couple of Marines burst into laughter. Even Alex Turner, the youngest and most hot-headed of the squad, snorted loudly. To them, it was harmless fun. A man in a patched-up blouse, showing no rank insignia, probably some former enlisted guy clinging to old memories. Someone safe to tease. Lily blinked a little, stunned by all the noise. Aiden rested a hand on her shoulder, giving her a reassuring squeeze. He wasn't offended. He was still, like the question didn't surprise him, like he had been asked far worse before. Bella took a step closer. "Come on, don't be shy. You don't walk around a Marine base in uniform unless you've got something to show." She raised a brow. "So, Corporal Sergeant, maybe. Gunnery, Sergeant." More laughter. Alex added, "Yeah, tell us your rank, old-timer." Aiden looked at the young man, calm, unreadable. Not angry. Just measuring him. Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy." He knelt slightly so she wouldn't feel so small amid the Marines. "It's okay," he whispered. "They're just having fun." But even Bella noticed something. Then something in his eyes. Not embarrassment, not irritation. A kind of steady focus she'd seen before on deployment, in men who had done more than their records could ever say. It made her chest tighten for an inexplicable reason. Another Marine chimed in. "Hey, Savy, maybe he's some kind of secret general." The tent exploded in laughter again. Bella crossed her arms. "Okay," then she said, now half joking, half curious. "I'll make it easier. Who was the last person who asked you that question?" That question landed harder than she intended. Aiden slowly stood up straight. Something changed in the air around him, barely perceptible, but enough for the joking to quiet just a bit. He looked at Bella, then at the others, then finally down at Lily. The little girl's hand slipped into his, as if she sensed something none of the Marines could. When Aiden spoke, his voice was low, measured, unthreatening but impossibly steady. "The last person who asked me my rank." He paused. The tent seemed to lean closer. Was the commander of the Joint Task Force. Silence. A stillness rolled through the GP tent, slow at first, like a wave forming far offshore, then crashing in an instant. The Marines stared. Bella blinked hard, her mouth half open. Alex's smirk vanished. No one laughed. Aiden didn't elaborate, didn't boast, didn't correct their stunned faces. He simply rested his hand on Lily's shoulder again. "Come on," he murmured to her. "Let's finish looking around." But Lily wasn't the only one holding on to him now. Every Marine in the tent watched him walk, slow, steady, quiet, as if they had just seen something they shouldn't have, something they didn't understand yet. Bella swallowed. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "What?" Did he just say no one answered? Outside, children were still laughing, families, still mingling, the base open house still buzzing like any other year. But inside the GP tent, the air had shifted subtly, irrevocably. There are questions one should not ask lightly, and Bella Seavey had just asked one of them. The afternoon breeze drifted through the base, carrying with it the distant thrum of helicopters and the soft laughter of families wandering between displays. But inside Aiden Cross, something far quieter stirred, a memory he couldn't quite shake, triggered by the question that echoed over and over in the GP tent. "What's your rank, single dad?" A harmless joke, a careless tease. But the past had a way of answering questions no one should ask. Aiden walked with Lily toward the shaded area near the food stands, her small hand gripping his like an anchor. He could still feel the weight of the Marine's stares on his back, the stunned silence that fell the moment he'd spoken the truth. Not the whole truth, but enough to stop the laughter cold. Lily tilted her head up at him, her brown eyes full of curiosity. "Daddy? Were they mean to you?" Aiden slowed his steps. "No, sweetheart. They just didn't understand." "Understand what? That some things don't look like what people expect." She pondered that, nodding with the seriousness only an 8-year-old could muster. Then she squeezed his hand, twice their quiet signal since she was a toddler. "I'm right here." Aiden exhaled softly. "I know." They stopped at a picnic table. Lily climbed onto the bench, swinging her legs. He watched her push a stray strand of hair from her face, a gesture so much like her mother's that it tugged at his chest. Flashback. 3 years earlier, the hallway of the rehabilitation center had smelled of antiseptic and rain that day. Aiden sat beside his wife's bed, holding her cold hand, as machines hummed softly. Emily Cross, once vibrant and full of life, had fought her illness with a courage even he who had walked through fire and war could barely fathom. "You have to promise me something," she whispered, her breath thin. Anything Aiden said, though his voice was barely steady. Live gently. For her. She nodded toward the crib where Lily slept. And for yourself. I don't know how he admitted. She smiled weakly. You will. You always do. When she took her final breath hours later, Aiden felt something inside him drop into a silence deeper than any battlefield he had walked. He left the service months later, trading missions for diapers, night patrols for bedtime stories, the roar of helicopters for the soft voice of a child who needed him. He became just a single dad, and that was enough for him. Present day. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Lily's voice brought him back. Of course, he said. Open house rules. Ice cream counts as lunch. Her laughter tinkled like wind chimes as she hopped down. As they approached the snack stand, a pair of older veterans noticed Aiden's blouse, the faded patches, the distinct stitching only seen on deployed uniforms. One of them, gray-bearded and leaning on a cane, gave a small nod. Aiden returned it. The kind of nod that carried a silent language. I see you. I know. Lily ran ahead to the counter. 2 vanilla, please. 1 big, 1 medium. Make that 2 mediums, Aiden corrected gently. You always say that, she protested, grinning. As the vendor scooped the ice cream, Aiden felt a pair of eyes on him. Not judging, observing, searching. He turned. Bella Savy stood a few yards away, arms folded, watching him with a look he couldn't quite read. Embarrassment? Curiosity. Something else beneath the surface. When she realized he'd noticed her, she straightened her posture. Oh, hi. She lifted a hand awkwardly. Hello, Corporal, Aiden replied, calm as ever. Bella opened her mouth, thought better of it, and closed it again. She's rattled, Aiden realized. He didn't intend to humiliate her or anyone. He'd simply answered a question. But the look on her face earlier, it was the same expression he'd seen on young Marines, who learned too late that not every warrior wore visible rank. She approached slowly. Look, about earlier. It's fine. Aiden cut gently, not unkindly. No, it's not. Bella rubbed the back of her neck. We were joking. We didn't know. You weren't supposed to know, he shrugged lightly. And I wasn't planning to clarify. But you did, she said softly. Because sometimes, silence teaches the wrong lesson. Bella swallowed. She felt the weight of that line settle somewhere deep inside her. Lily returned with the ice creams beaming. Hi, Miss Marine, she chirped. Bella softened instantly. Hey there, firecracker. Aiden raised a brow. Firecracker. She looks like the type who would outrun half my platoon, Bella said. Lily nodded vigorously. I run super fast, Aiden chuckled. She's telling the truth. Bella hesitated, glancing at Aiden's blouse. So, the patch. The Recon Eagle. It's real, it was Aiden corrected. A long time ago. There was no pride in his voice, no arrogance, just acceptance. That was the part that disarmed Bella the most. Most men she knew who had been in elite units radiated an aura, an unmistakable certainty about themselves. But Aiden, he carried his past like a man who had lived it, honored it, and set it down carefully. So, why keep wearing the blouse? Bella asked gently. Aiden looked at Lily. It reminds me who I used to be, and who I'm trying to be now. Lily licked her ice cream and grinned. A good daddy. Aiden smiled. That too. Bella felt something shift in her chest, unexpected, warm, a little painful. She wanted to say more, to ask more, but a young Marine called her name from across the field. Sevi, we need you at the pull-up bar demo. She sighed and stepped back. Duty calls. Aiden nodded. Have a good day, Corporal. Bella hesitated a moment longer, then dropped her voice. I don't know who you were, Aiden, but I hope someday you'll tell me. He didn't answer, not because he didn't want to, but because the past was a fragile door, and he wasn't sure he was ready to let anyone open it. She jogged off, leaving Aiden standing with Lily, the sun warming their shoulders. Lily tugged his sleeve again. "Daddy, can we go back to the tents later?" "Why?" he asked. She shrugged. "I think Miss Marine feels lonely." Aiden blinked, thus stunned by the innocence and truth of her observation. He brushed a hand through her hair. "We'll see, sweetheart." As they walked toward the next display, the shadows grew longer, and something unseen, something delicate began to weave itself quietly between their lives. The quiet man and his daughter were no longer unnoticed, and nothing about this day would be ordinary again. The afternoon sun slipped lower, casting long shadows across Camp Ridgeway as families drifted between exhibits. The open house atmosphere was still cheerful children climbing into armored vehicles, veterans trading stories, food carts filling the air with the scent of grilled corn and barbecue. But inside the large GP tent, where everything had begun, the air felt different, still, as if the canvas walls remembered the silence that had fallen only an hour earlier. Alex Turner remembered it too. He sat on a cot, elbows on his knees, staring at the dusty floor. His face, normally full of smug confidence, was tight with something he wasn't used to feeling: embarrassment. The kind that burns behind the ribs, the kind that stays. Bella Seavey paced near him, her boots tapping the metal flooring. She tried to shake the lingering tension from her shoulders, but it clung stubbornly. The image of Aiden Cross's calm face, steady, unreadable, kept replaying in her mind. "The last person who asked me my rank was the commander of the Joint Task Force." Bella swallowed hard. She wasn't easily rattled, but that line had lodged itself beneath her skin. Alex finally broke the silence. "That guy, he's lying, right?" Bella stopped pacing. "Alex, no one lies like that." "But he was wearing an old recon patch," Alex protested. "That thing was faded, looked like he bought it off eBay." Bella shook her head. "There's a difference between old and fake. You wouldn't know that yet." Alex bristled. Meaning you've never worn something long enough to bleed into it." Her voice softened. "Some things get worn because they lived through hell. That blouse did." Alex's jaw tightened, frustration swirling with guilt. He had poked the patch earlier, stupidly, carelessly, like a kid tugging at a loose thread on a flag. He stood abruptly. "I need air." Alex Bella called after him, but he was already slipping through the tent flap. Outside, Alex walked toward the rows of equipment displays until he spotted two figures, Aiden and Lily, standing by a Humvee. A mechanic was showing Lily how the door hinges were reinforced. She was fascinated. Aiden smiled gently beside her, hands in his pockets. Alex swallowed hard. He wasn't ready to apologize. He wasn't even ready to confront what he'd done. So instead, he watched from a distance as a breeze lifted the edge of Aiden's blouse, and that old, frayed recon patch caught the sunlight. Not fake, not decorative. Something earned. Something Alex had mocked without thinking. Back inside the GP tent, Bella resumed pacing, but her thoughts drifted not to Alex's immaturity, but to the subtle shift she'd sensed in Aiden earlier. There had been a moment right before he spoke his truth, when he touched the patch on his chest. A fleeting gesture, but loaded. That patch meant something. Something far heavier than the laughter that had surrounded him. Sevi. Bella turned. Sergeant Martinez, her squad leader, approached with a clipboard. "We need you for the obstacle course demo in 20. Bella nodded absent-mindedly, but Martinez didn't walk away. He studied her for a moment. "You okay?" "Yeah," she lied. Martinez exhaled. "That man earlier, the one in the old blouse. What about him? I've seen guys like that before. Quiet, soft-spoken. The ones who don't brag." He tapped his temple. "Those are the ones command calls when they want something done right. And quiet." "You think he's legit?" Bella asked softly. Martinez shrugged. "I think I saw fear in Alex's eyes for the first time ever. And I think you're thinking about him more than you want to admit." Bella stiffened. "I'm not. "It's not that," Martinez said gently. "You just look like someone who crossed a line and realized it too late." Bella didn't argue, because he was right. Meanwhile, Alex wandered aimlessly until he reached a display table covered with small memorabilia, old unit patches, challenge coins, a few ribbons placed under protective glass. A sign read, "History of Joint Reconnaissance Units." A retired Marine, old enough that his hands trembled slightly, sat behind the table. He wore a garrison cap and a faded smile. Alex pointed at a familiar-looking patch. "Hey, that eagle. Is that the same one that's on that guy's shirt?" The old Marine looked at the patch, then at Alex. This is a JTF Recon insignia. Came from my buddy's uniform. They only made a few hundred. Most of the guys who wore it didn't come back." Alex's stomach tightened. "And the ones who did, Legends," the old Marine said softly. "The kind that don't talk much." Alex's throat felt dry. He walked away before the veteran could ask further questions. Across the field, Aiden and Lily had moved to a quieter corner near the medical tent. Lily had found a balloon artist who twisted a long green balloon into the shape of a snake. She squealed with delight. Aiden watched her arms folded loosely across his chest. He felt someone approaching before he heard them. Then he turned. Bella stood there, hands behind her back, not as confident as earlier. She searched for words but found none. Instead, she nodded toward the patch on his chest, the same one Alex had mocked. "Can I ask what it meant?" she asked quietly. Aiden didn't answer at first. He looked out across the field, remembering sand smoke and a night sky lit by tracer fire. Then he spoke, his voice steady. "It meant responsibility," he said. "For missions, for men, for choices that didn't always have good outcomes." Bella listened without interrupting. "It meant doing things quietly," Aiden continued. "Doing them because they had to be done, not because anyone would ever know." Bella's throat tightened. "I shouldn't have joked about it." Aiden met her eyes, calm, not accusing. "You didn't know. And not knowing isn't a crime." Bella absorbed that. It was not the forgiveness she expected. It was deeper and understanding, born from someone who had made peace with pain long ago. Lily ran up, then waving her balloon snake. "Miss Marine, look." Bella laughed despite herself. "That's the bravest snake I've ever seen." Aiden couldn't help the faint smile that tugged at his lips. For a moment, the three of them stood there, an unlikely trio, connected by a mistake, a patch and a man who carried more history than anyone around him realized. Behind them, Alex watched from a distance, guilt gnawing at him. And he wasn't the only one. Because what none of them knew, yet what was waiting just beyond the crest of the next moment, was that the patch wasn't the only thing about Aiden about to be uncovered. And when it was, the entire base would freeze. The late afternoon sun dipped toward the horizon, casting a soft gold glow across Camp Ridgeway. The open house crowd was still lively children, with painted faces, veterans sharing coffee families, snapping photos by the tanks. But inside the largest GP tent, where the earlier teasing had happened, a strange tension lingered. Aiden Cross felt it before he stepped inside. He was walking with Lily, who now held Bella's balloon snake in one hand and a cup of lemonade in the other. She hummed happily, unaware that dozens of eyes watched her father's every step. The air shifted the moment Aiden ducked beneath the canvas doorway. Conversations dimmed, boots shuffled, even the hum of the electric fans seemed to fade. Not because he was imposing, not because he demanded attention, but because something about him, his quietness, his presence, his unspoken history, made people instinctively step back. Bella Savy stood near the center of the tent speaking to Sergeant Martinez. When she saw Aiden enter, she froze mid-sentence. Martinez followed her gaze, his eyebrows lifted. Aiden didn't intend to walk toward them. He wasn't the type to command a room. but he had promised Lily one more look at the gear tables, and the quickest path brought him straight through the heart of the tent. As he passed a group of Marines, they straightened unconsciously, backs tighter, shoulders squared, as if something deep in their training recognized something deep in him. Lily noticed the sudden stillness and tugged her father's sleeve. "Daddy, why is everyone standing so still?" Aiden offered a soft smile. Maybe they had too much coffee. But Bella knew better. Aiden's calmness unsettled her. It wasn't arrogance or indifference. It was the way he carried himself. Shoulders relaxed, but ready eyes alert, but kind footsteps soft, as if he had spent years learning to move without making sound. He reminded her of someone who had spent too long in the dark and learned to navigate it. She took a breath. Aiden. He stopped in front of her, Lily poking the balloon snake upward like a little salute. "Hello again," Corporal Aiden said gently. Bella's heart skipped. She tried to smile but failed. The guys and I were talking." Aiden tilted his head. About before she could answer, Alex Turner stepped forward. His jaw was tense, his cheeks flushed. The bravado he carried earlier had vanished entirely. "Hey," Alex stammered. "Look about earlier." I didn't mean. Aiden lifted a hand, stopping him without a hint of hostility. "You don't need to explain," he said. "People joke about things they don't understand. That's human nature." Alex looked stunned. Bella watched the exchange with a strange heaviness in her chest. Most men with Aiden's rumored background responded to disrespect with pride or anger. But not him. He absorbed it, then let it go like a man who had learned long ago what mattered and what didn't. Bella swallowed. "Still, we owe you an apology." Lily looked up at her father. "Daddy forgives everyone. He says it's lighter to carry." Bella's heart squeezed. Aiden chuckled softly. "I don't think I worded it exactly like that." "Close enough," Lily said proudly. Before Bella could find the right words, Sergeant Martinez approached, clearing his throat. "Sir, sorry, Mr. Cross," he corrected quickly earlier. "You mentioned the Joint Task Force commander asked for your rank." Aiden nodded calmly. Martinez studied him with a respect he hadn't shown before. Not many people ever speak to that commander directly. Even fewer call him sir without flinching. Aiden's expression didn't change. That was a long time ago. But it happened. Bella pressed softly. For the first time, something flickered across Aiden's eyes. Old shadows, old memories. He didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it. He simply said, "There are questions you only answer once in life." "Corporal." Bella felt her pulse quicken. "And you answered it earlier today." Aiden exhaled slowly, only because the moment called for it. Silence tightened around them. Then Alex Young, impulsive. "Alex asked the question hanging in every mind, sir. What was your rank?" This time it wasn't a joke. It wasn't a taunt. It was a genuine question. Shaky, reverent almost. Aiden didn't immediately respond. He looked down at Lily, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. Her presence seemed to ground him, tether him to the gentler world he had chosen. Then finally, he looked up. "When I walked off my last mission," he said quietly, "there was only one man on the entire base who outranked me." A breath caught in Bella's throat. A few Marines exchanged stunned glances. Martinez whispered, "That's impossible." But Aiden continued, voice steady. "I reported directly to the Joint Task Force commander because the teams I led required it." Alex stumbled back half a step. Holy, before he could finish, the tent flap burst open with a rush of wind. Logan Pierce, the military police officer, strode in, briskly holding a tablet in his hand. "Attention," he barked instinctively. Everyone snapped to posture, even civilians startled upright. Aiden didn't move, but something in the air recognized him anyway, like gravity adjusting itself. Logan looked around the tent, breath slightly short. Then his eyes landed on Aiden. "I'm looking for," he glanced down at his screen. The voice softened. Aiden Cross. Lily pressed closer to her father. Aiden nodded calmly. "I'm here." Logan swallowed. "Sir." He hesitated, not because he doubted the info on his screen, but because saying it out loud felt unreal. The base just received a priority search for a retired service member flagged under a red file classification. The tent shifted. "Red file," Bella whispered. Martinez exhaled sharply. Alex looked like he might faint. Logan turned the tablet around. A photograph appeared on the screen. A younger Aiden Cross, clean-shaven, sharper eyes, darker hair, stared back at them with a look that could cut through steel. Underneath the photo, Aiden Cross, former Joint Task Force Recon Commander, Navy Cross, Silver Star, 27 commendations, classified operations and no status, retired red file access required. Every breath in the tent stopped. No one moved. No one spoke. And in the crushing silence, Bella's voice cracked softly, shaken, breathless, disbelieving. "Aiden! My God!" The tent didn't just quiet. It froze. The GP tent had fallen into a silence so pure it almost rang. Aiden Cross stood still beside Lily, who clutched his hand tightly as the world around them seemed to stop. The projection on Logan Pierce's tablet glowed faintly, Aiden's younger face, staring back like a ghost from a life he no longer lived. The medals listed beneath his name shimmered in the dim light. Navy Cross, Silver Star, 27 commendations. Decorations no one in the tent had ever seen in one place before. Decorations most Marines only read about in history briefs. Logan took a steadying breath. His voice wavered as he repeated, "Sir, the base is requesting your presence for confirmation. They need to verify your identity due to, well, the classification." Aiden didn't flinch, didn't react. He simply lowered himself just enough to meet Lily's eyes. "It's all right," he whispered. "Nothing bad is happening." But Bella, standing only feet away, heard another truth beneath his reassurance, the tone of a man who had lived through real danger, trying to shield his child from seeing fear where there was none. Bella watched Lily nod, trusting her father completely. Her small fingers tightened around his. Aiden straightened again, calm as ever. "Logan," he said quietly, "tell Colonel Hale I'll speak with him." Logan blinked. Yes, sir." The "sir" slipped out naturally now, like muscle memory. He took a few steps back, still studying the tablet, as if he couldn't believe what it displayed. Several Marines craned their necks to look, and the whispers began low, reverent, stunned. "That's him." "No way. JTF Recon." "Is that even real?" Bella stood rooted to the floor. Her throat tightened, her breath shallow. She had served long enough to understand the weight of those words. Joint Task Force Recon Commander wasn't a normal role. It wasn't even a standard elite unit. It was the kind of position whispered about, used in briefings, as a reminder that someone somewhere carried burdens no one else would ever see. She stepped closer, her voice barely steady. "Aiden, why is your file flagged red?" His eyes softened. "Because some things don't belong in public records." Bella swallowed hard. "You were important." Aiden shook his head gently. "No, Corporal. I was responsible. That's all." There was a humility in those words that made her chest ache. Alex Turner, who only earlier mocked him, now stood frozen, hands trembling slightly at his sides. His voice cracked. "Sir, why didn't you tell us?" Aiden turned toward him with a compassion that disarmed everyone watching. "Because you were never supposed to know." "I wore the blouse to remind myself who I once was, not to show anyone else." Alex looked down, guilt washing over him. Bella stepped closer. "What does the base want with you now?" Verification, Aiden replied. Red file protocols require reauthorization every few years. Usually they send a letter, but military systems aren't perfect. As if to prove his point, Logan Pierce returned abruptly, almost running. Sir Colonel Hale is on his way. And he hesitated, glancing around the tent. The system triggered a secondary alert. Aiden's brow lifted slightly. What kind of alert? Logan's gaze softened with something between awe and disbelief. Your clearance, he said slowly, is still active. A ripple moved through the tent like wind through tall grass. Active clearance. For a unit that technically didn't even exist anymore. For operations sealed behind layers of black ink redaction. Bella felt goosebumps rise along her arms. Is that possible? She whispered. Aiden's voice was calm. Some files never close. He said it like someone stating a simple fact. But Bella felt the weight beneath it. Before anyone could speak again, a voice boomed from outside. Make way. The tent flap flew open, and in strode Colonel Brandon Hale. Tall, broad-shouldered, every inch a Marine officer, Hale had the presence of a man who didn't need an introduction. His gaze swept the tent sharp and assessing until it landed on Aiden. His eyes widened. Recognition hit him like a memory he'd buried deep. He stepped forward, boots thudding sharply on the matting. Marines snapped straighter instinctively. Bella felt her breath catch. Hale stopped in front of Aiden. Aiden stood, as he always did, quiet, humble, unmoving. Then something happened that made half the tent gasp. Colonel Hale drew in a breath, heels clicked sharply, and he saluted. But not a casual greeting salute, not a polite acknowledgement. It was a full, formal, deep salute, the kind reserved for the highest-ranking officers, or the most revered heroes. The kind that came from the spine, not the shoulders. A salute given to a legend. The air thickened. Lily blinked in confusion. Bella's throat tightened so fast, she nearly choked. Aiden didn't return the salute, not immediately. Instead, he gave Lily a reassuring nod, as if making sure she was all right. Then he lifted his hand, slowly, respectfully, returning Hale's gesture with a quiet dignity that hushed every voice in the tent. When the salute dropped, Hale's voice was hoarse. Commander Cross, he said softly, it's an honor. Aiden winced almost imperceptibly. Retired Colonel. Not from who you were, Hale replied. Aiden sighed. I'm just here with my daughter. Hale nodded slowly, understanding the plea behind those words. He took a half step back, addressing the Marines around them. For those who don't know, Hale said, voice carrying across the tent. This man led missions most of us only trained to support. Teams survived because of him. And yes, his file is red, because he earned that classification in places we don't speak of. Murmurs rippled through the tent. Alex looked like he might cry. Bella pressed her lips together, fighting back emotion she didn't fully understand. Hale turned back to Aiden. Sir, the base is at your disposal. If you need anything, Aiden shook his head gently. Just let today be today. Hale hesitated, then nodded with genuine respect. Of course. He stepped aside. Aiden reached for Lily's hand again. Daddy, she whispered. Everyone is staring. I know, he said softly. Let's give them something better to remember. He led her past the stunned Marines, past the equipment tables, past the silence that now followed him like a shadow. Bella watched him go, her heart pounding her mind, racing. The system had awakened today, and in doing so, it had revealed something she never expected. The quiet single dad she teased was a man the entire base would stand for. The tent was still humming with disbelief, even after Colonel Hale had stepped aside. Conversations had not yet restarted. Everyone seemed suspended in a collective moment of awe, as if reality had shifted and they hadn't caught up. Aiden Cross lowered his hand after returning the colonel's salute. his face still calm, serene even. But Bella could see something flicker beneath the surface, a tug of discomfort, a weight he didn't want. He hadn't come here to be recognized. He hadn't come here to reclaim anything. He came for Lily, for a simple day of memories. But fate had decided that the man who wanted to disappear must be seen. Aiden took Lily's hand, intending to slip quietly out of the tent. He didn't want the attention, the whispers, the sudden reverence. But more than that, he didn't want Lily feeling overwhelmed by something she never asked for. Yet Colonel Hale wasn't finished. Aiden, wait. Aiden paused, turning slightly. Hale approached carefully, as if approaching someone who had carried too much for too long. Sir, sorry, Aiden. I want to thank you. You already did, Aiden replied gently. More than necessary. Hale's jaw tightened. No. I thanked the commander you used to be. I never thanked the man you are now. Aiden blinked, the words landing somewhere he didn't expect. Hale continued, voice steady. When I was a captain, your decisions saved my platoon. One of those missions, Operation Ridgefall, you rerouted us at the last second. Aiden's brows tightened with a faint ache of memory. Your unit was pinned between two ridges. Yes, Hale exhaled. And you somehow knew the secondary ambush was coming. I never understood how. I listened, Aiden said simply. And I trusted the instincts of good Marines. Hale nodded, emotion flickering behind his eyes. Well, those Marines had families, kids, grandkids. They're alive today because of you. So no, my salute wasn't enough. This time Aiden didn't deflect. Instead, he looked down at Lily, who squeezed his hand, and smiled, as if she understood everything without needing details. Bella stood only a few feet away, watching the exchange, with a heart that felt too full. She had always respected high-ranking officers, admired excellence. But what she saw before her wasn't a rank or a file. It was a man burdened by a past he carried with humility no award could capture. A softness spread across her chest, respect, regret, and something she didn't have a name for yet. Logan Pierce, still holding the tablet, cleared his throat. Sir, I'm Aiden. The command is asking if you need an escort to the admin building. Aiden shook his head. No, this isn't urgent. I'll verify my status later. Logan sputtered. But sir, this is a red file alert. Aiden smiled faintly. And I'm retired. Today I'm a dad, walking with his daughter. That takes priority. Bella felt her breath catch. That line lingered in the air, somehow stronger than all the medals on the screen. Colonel Hale nodded slowly. Understood. But before you go, I'd like to say something to the Marines here. Aiden stiffened slightly, but Hale raised a reassuring hand. Nothing about classified details. Just a lesson. Aiden gave a cautious nod. Hale turned to face the younger Marines gathering in the tent. He planted his boots, firmly, shoulders squared. Voice firm. Listen up. His words cut through the silence like a blade. What happened today is something every Marine, every soldier, sailor, airman needs to understand. Alex Turner looked down at his boots, already bracing for impact. Hale continued. We often judge people by their appearance, by what they wear, or the lack of what we expect. We forget that the quiet ones, the ones who don't talk themselves up, are often the ones who carried the heaviest loads. He gestured toward Aiden. This man didn't come here looking for attention, didn't demand respect, didn't even want to answer a simple question. And yet his service-shaped missions many of us only read about. Bella felt her throat tighten again. She had trained under Hale for years. He didn't get sentimental often, but his voice now held weight, personal, reverent. Hale continued. If you laughed at him earlier, good. You learned something today. You learned that rank isn't worn, it's lived. Earned. and sometimes forgotten by the person who carried it. Alex swallowed hard shame washing over him. Hale finished with a quiet power. Honor isn't in the patches, it's in the story behind them. And sometimes that story isn't ours to ask. The tent remained frozen for several long seconds. Then Lily, oblivious to the tension, tugged on Aiden's sleeve. "Daddy, can we get cotton candy now?" A ripple of warm laughter moved through the tent, soft, healing human. Aiden knelt and smoothed her hair. "Of course, sweetheart." He stood ready to leave. Bella stepped forward, voice soft, almost hesitant. "Aiden, I know you don't want attention, but thank you for everything you did, and for how you carry it." He held her gaze. There was something in his eyes, gratitude, but also a tiredness shaped by years of silence. "You're welcome," he said quietly. Bella opened her mouth, wanting to say more to bridge the gap her mistake earlier had created, but the words tangled. She only managed a gentle, "Enjoy the rest of your day." Aiden nodded, guiding Lily toward the exit. As he stepped out of the tent, sunlight bathed him again, soft, warm, unburdened. For a moment, he looked simply like what he longed to be, a father walking hand in hand with his little girl. Inside the tent, Bella stood still, a strange ache in her chest. It wasn't attraction. Not yet. It was something deeper, quieter, respect so profound it unsettled her. A pull toward understanding the man she had misjudged. She whispered under her breath, "Who are you, Aiden Cross?" Really, Colonel Hale heard her. He answered softly, "A good man. One of the best I ever served with. And a man who paid a price most will never understand." Bella's heart clenched. Outside, Aiden and Lily moved into the dying sunlight, unaware that a story that began with a simple joke had already begun reshaping the lives of everyone who had witnessed it. Today, a salute had been given. Not for rank, not for reputation, but for the quiet dignity of a man who never wanted to be a legend. The sun dipped low over Camp Ridgeway, casting long amber shadows across the grounds. The open house was winding down, families trickling toward parking lots, vendors packing up Marines, folding display banners. But inside the biggest GP tent, the atmosphere was anything but settled. The silence that lingered wasn't the shocked stillness from earlier. It was something heavier, something that pressed on the hearts of every Marine who had witnessed Colonel Hale's salute. Alex Turner stood near a cot, his fists opening and closing jaw tight. He hadn't spoken since Aiden left. His mistake, mocking the very man whose service dwarfed everything he had ever imagined, played again and again in his mind, each memory more painful than the last. Sergeant Martinez noticed. "You okay, kid?" Alex let out a shaky breath. "I messed up." "Bad." Martinez crossed his arms. "Yeah, you did." Alex winced, expecting anger, but Martinez continued, voice firm, yet not unkind. "Every Marine does something stupid at some point. The difference is whether you learn from it." Alex swallowed hard. "How do you apologize to someone like him?" Martinez looked toward the tent entrance, where Aiden had walked out minutes earlier. "With honesty and humility. He's earned both." Bella Seavey stood a few steps away, listening. Her own shame had settled deep in her chest. She wasn't a rookie. She wasn't impulsive like Alex. She prided herself on discipline, professionalism. And she'd been the loudest voice in the teasing. The memory stung worse than any reprimand. She closed her eyes. "I acted like I was still 19, she murmured. "Not a corporal." Martinez softened. "Sevi, what matters is how you carry yourself after today." Bella nodded slowly, but the guilt didn't ease. She had misjudged a man who didn't deserve even a second of disrespect, a man who moments later stood taller than any rank she'd ever saluted, a man who forgave without hesitation, and somehow that made it harder. Aiden and Lily sat on the back bumper of a Humvee, sharing a small bag of kettle corn. Lily swung her legs humming to herself, while Aiden watched the evening settle over the base with quiet contemplation. Though he remained composed, there was a weight behind his eyes, old memories stirred by the day's events. Daddy, Lily said between bites. "Why did that big man salute you?" Aiden smiled softly. "Because he respected something I did a long time ago." Lily considered that. "Did you save him?" In a way, Aiden admitted, "But lots of people saved me too." "That's good," she said firmly. "People should help each other." Aiden brushed a piece of popcorn from her hair. "Yes, they should." He let the moment sit. It grounded him, brought him back from memories he didn't want to revisit. The laughter of a passing family warmed the air. A toddler waved at Lily. She waved back, giggling. For a second, Aiden allowed himself to breathe. Then footsteps approached, slow, hesitant. He recognized them immediately. Bella. She took a few steps toward him, then stopped as if unsure whether she had the right to come closer. Aiden gave a small, gentle nod granting permission. Bella exhaled shakily. "Aiden, may I speak with you?" "Of course." She moved closer, standing a respectful distance away. Even she seemed surprised by how nervous she felt. "I wanted to apologize," she began, voice trembling slightly. "Not just for myself, but for the whole tent. We acted like children. We didn't know who you were." And Bella Aiden interrupted softly. "You don't need to apologize." She shook her head. "I do. Because today I learned something I shouldn't have needed a lesson in." Aiden waited patiently. Bella continued humility. Respect. Not making snap judgments. "I talk a lot about discipline to the younger Marines. But today I didn't show any." Her voice cracked at the edges. "I'm sorry." Aiden looked at her, really looked. Beneath her toughness, he saw sincerity, shame, and a heart trying to do the right thing. He nodded once. "Apology accepted," he said gently. "But you didn't cross a line beyond repair." Bella blinked, touched by the softness of his tone. Aiden continued. "You saw someone in an old blouse and made an assumption. It happens. What you choose to do afterward matters more." Bella swallowed hard. "And what do you think I should do?" Aiden nodded toward the tent. "Teach your Marines what you learned today. That's all." Bella's eyes glistened. She took a shaky breath, whispering, "Thank you." Lily hopped off the Humvee bumper and tugged Bella's hand. "It's okay, Miss Marine," she declared proudly. "Daddy says everyone makes mistakes, even him." Aiden sighed playfully. "Did I say that?" Yup, Lily grinned. Bella laughed through her embarrassment, wiping her eyes quickly before anyone could notice. "She's incredible." "She gets it from her mother," Aiden murmured. That made Bella pause. "Your wife." Aiden nodded quietly. "She passed away a few years ago." Bella's heart clenched. "I'm sorry." Aiden offered a gentle smile. "Thank you." There was a moment, soft, fragile, where Bella felt something shift between them. Not attraction exactly. Something more foundational. Understanding. Respect. A quiet spark of human connection. The Marines had gathered near the center. Colonel Hale stood in front of them, arms crossed. "You all learned a lesson today," he said firmly. "A lesson I hope none of you ever forget." Alex stepped forward suddenly. "Sir, I'd like to apologize to Commander," he corrected himself quickly to Mr. Cross. "Personally." "And you will," Hale said. "But you're not done reflecting yet." Alex nodded through tight. Hale's gaze swept the tent. Humility isn't about knowing who outranks you. It's about remembering that every person you meet carries a story you can't see. Martinez chimed in. "And if you treat people with respect from the start, you never have to be embarrassed when their story finally comes out." A murmur of agreement rippled through the squad. Bella lingered with Aiden and Lily as the crowd thinned. The distant sound of taps would soon echo across the base, signaling the end of day. Lily leaned against Aiden, tired but content. Bella hesitated. If you ever feel like talking about anything, or if Lily ever needs help around the base, I'd be honored to help. Aiden offered a small, grateful nod. Thank you, Corporal. Bella felt warmth spread through her chest. She didn't understand it fully yet, but she knew she wanted to. As the sky dimmed and the lights flickered on across Camp Ridgeway, one truth became clear. Today's harsh lesson hadn't broken anyone. It had opened something. Respect had replaced mockery. Understanding had replaced arrogance. And somewhere between quiet humility and unexpected forgiveness, a fragile bridge had formed. A bridge that would change all three of their lives in ways none of them could yet imagine. Twilight settled over Camp Ridgeway with a gentle hush. The crowds from the open house had thinned until only a few scattered families remained. The loudspeakers near the parade field crackled faintly as a Marine prepared to play Retreat, the ceremony that signaled day's end. Soon, the flag would lower, and with it, the hum of the bass would soften into evening calm. But Bella Savy stood by herself outside the GP tent, unable to leave. Her boots were planted on the dusty ground, arms wrapped around herself, as if holding together pieces she wasn't used to admitting were fragile. Moments earlier, she had apologized to Aiden. He had forgiven her with a grace so natural, it made her shame feel heavier, almost unbearable. She had always prided herself on being strong, confident, competent, in control. Yet today she had behaved like a rookie, letting her impulsive humor eclipse her training. She not only embarrassed herself, but misjudged a man who had earned more honor than she had ever imagined. And that man, that quiet, gentle father, had forgiven her instantly. It made her chest ache in a way she didn't know how to name. She rubbed her temples, trying to steady her breath. Corporal Bella startled. Colonel Hale approached his steps, measured his expression, softened. Sir Bella straightened. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting anyone. Hale studied her face with a knowing expression. You look like someone carrying more weight than a uniform allows. Bella exhaled shakily. I made a mistake today, sir. Hale nodded. Yes, and you're not the only one. That surprised her. Alex Martinez, half the tent everyone judged a man based on clothing and quietness. Hale's voice was measured, but warm. But your reaction afterward, that says more about your character than the mistake itself. Bella swallowed hard. Still, I can't shake how wrong I was, how unfair. Hale's gaze softened even further. Corporal, humility isn't knowing your place. It's knowing when you were wrong and choosing to grow from it. Bella blinked through the sting of tears she refused to let fall. Hale continued. I saw how you spoke to Aiden. That mattered. And it mattered to him more than he showed. Bella didn't know how to respond. Part of her wondered why she cared so much about one man's opinion. But she did. Deeply. Near the playground area, Aiden sat on a bench, while Lily climbed the jungle gym, her balloon snake trailing behind her like a streamer. She giggled each time she slid down the metal slide, the sound echoing across the open field. Aiden watched her with a faint smile. The chaos of the day was fading, but a small part of him felt exposed, like someone had peeled back a layer he'd spent years protecting. He didn't regret telling the truth, but he disliked what came after. He didn't want to be saluted, didn't want whispers following him, didn't want Lily to grow up with stories instead of simple childhood memories. A soft crunch of footsteps approached. He knew who it was before he looked up. Bella. She walked toward him slowly, hands clasped in front of her, as if she were approaching a grave, not a bench. Aiden nodded gently. Hello again. Bella swallowed. Do you have a moment? I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding. She exhaled in relief and sat at the far end of the bench. Not too close, not too distant. Respectful. For a moment, they simply watched Lily play her laughter weaving through the cooling night air like a melody. Finally, Bella spoke. I didn't tell you earlier, but when Colonel Hale saluted you, I felt something I haven't felt in years. Aiden looked at her curious but patient. What did you feel? Bella toyed with her dog tags unconsciously. Shame. And respect. And something else I can't explain. Aiden leaned back, his posture calm. You shouldn't feel shame. Bella shook her head stubbornly. But I do. I acted like a fool. Aiden chuckled softly. Everyone has moments like that. Not like this, Bella murmured. Not toward someone like you. Aiden's expression softened. Bella, you judged me because of my old uniform. You didn't know my story. None of you did. Bella met his gaze, steady, searching. That's exactly why I feel wrong. I should never have needed your story to treat you with respect. Aiden's brows lifted slightly. He didn't expect that. Bella continued, voice trembling with sincerity she seldom revealed. I've always told my Marines to see the person first. But today, I didn't do that. You did, even when we mocked you. Aiden shook his head gently. I didn't carry that with me. But I did, Bella whispered. There was pain in her voice, real raw. Aiden saw it clearly. The Marine who always seemed confident now looked like a young woman trying not to break under her own expectations. Guilt had gnawed at many in Aiden's past, men he'd commanded soldiers who lived while others didn't. He had seen guilt destroy strong people. But Bella's guilt wasn't rooted in trauma, it was rooted in goodness, and he couldn't let it harden into something darker. Aiden turned fully toward her. His voice was soft, but firm. Bella, you are a good Marine, a good leader, a good person. Today doesn't erase that. Bella looked down, blinking fast. Aiden continued. Respect isn't just how you treat people at their best. It's how you respond when you learn you were wrong. Bella's breath hitched. And how did I respond? By coming back, Aiden said gently. Most people wouldn't. She looked up at him, then eyes glistening, not with embarrassment but relief. Something inside her unclenched, as if a knot had finally loosened. Lily ran up at that moment, breathless from excitement. Miss Marine, look, I made the snake slide with me. Bella laughed, a warm, genuine sound that softened every sharp line in her face. He's braver than some Marines I know. Lily beamed and ran back to the slide. Aiden watched Bella as she watched Lily. There was something tender in her gaze, a softness he hadn't known she possessed. Bella finally said, I hope I get the chance to make it right, not just with words. Aiden nodded, a calm acceptance in his eyes. You already started. Bella inhaled deeply, letting the last of her shame finally settle and dissolve. A connection had formed between them, fragile, early, but real. Not romantic. Not yet. Something more foundational. Something rooted in respect, forgiveness, and the gentleness both of them had forgotten they could give and receive. As the last sunlight faded and the bass loudspeaker began playing, taps, Bella stood. I'll see you tomorrow, Aiden, he smiled softly. I'll see you, Bella. She walked away, slowly, glancing back only once, just long enough to catch Aiden helping Lily tie her shoelaces. A simple moment. A beautiful one. And in Bella's heart, something unspoken whispered, this man is unlike anyone I've ever met. By the next morning, the open house event at Camp Ridgeway had faded into conversation across the base, retold in fragments, at chow halls, on motor pool benches, and in the gym. Rumors spread fast, but facts spread faster when they were impossible to ignore. Aiden Cross, quiet single dad, soft-spoken, wearing a faded recon blouse, had in a single afternoon revealed a truth that shook even the most battle-hardened Marines. Some called it the tent freeze. Others referred to it simply as yesterday. But for Aiden, today was just another day. He walked Lily to the base's community center for her art class. She carried a sketchbook decorated with stickers of stars and little hand-drawn doodles of snakes, an homage to Bella's balloon creation from the day before. Daddy, Lily asked as she skipped beside him. "Are you still famous today?" Aiden smiled gently. "I was never famous, sweetheart." "You are now," she insisted proudly. "I'd rather just be your dad," he replied. "That's the best job ever," Lily declared. Aiden ruffled her hair. "I agree." He left her with the instructor and stepped outside, enjoying the quiet morning air. The sky was clear, and the early sun cast a soft warmth over the base. It was peaceful, something he never took for granted. He didn't get far before someone called his name. Aiden, he turned to see Bella jogging toward him, dressed in PT gear, her bun slightly messy from her morning run. She skidded to a stop, breath visible in the cool air. "You walk fast," she said, catching her breath. "You run fast," Aiden replied. She grinned despite herself. Yesterday was, she searched for words, a lot, that it was. Bella shifted nervously. This wasn't the confident, sharp-edged Marine who barked instructions to her platoon. This was someone trying to navigate new terrain, humility, gratitude, curiosity. "Colonel Hale wants to see you," she said softly. Aiden arched a brow. "I thought I cleared that up yesterday. He wants you for something else." "A program." Aiden sighed. "Bella, it's not mandatory," she hurried, "but I think you might want to hear him out." Aiden hesitated. "What program?" Bella clasped her hands behind her back. "Learning from legends." Aiden's expression tightened. "No, you didn't even hear what it is." "I don't need to. I'm not a legend." Bella stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Aiden, this isn't about rank. It's about giving younger Marines perspective, understanding, guidance. What you did yesterday hit them hard." He didn't respond. Bella continued, gentler now. "Sometimes healing comes from helping others heal." Aiden looked away, his jaw working slightly. He didn't like attention. He didn't like the spotlight. But he did understand responsibility, and the responsibility he once carried tugged faintly at something deep within him. "I'll think about it," he finally said. Bella smiled, small, warm, sincere. "That's all I ask." A makeshift classroom had been set up in a small meeting hall near the motor pool. Folding chairs lined the space, filled with Marines from different units. At the front was a whiteboard titled "Learning from Legends." Session 1, Honor, Humility, and Service. Colonel Hale stood at the front, arms behind his back. "Settle down, Marines." Alex Turner sat in the front row, looking as nervous as if he were about to be court-martialed. Martinez sat beside him, offering silent encouragement. Bella stood at the side of the room, hands clasped behind her back, stealing glances toward the door every few seconds. It opened quietly. Aiden stepped in. The room rose to their feet without a command, instinctively respectfully. Aiden froze for a second, not with fear, but with discomfort. He wasn't accustomed to reverence. He preferred solitude, anonymity, peace. But he gave a small nod, and everyone sat. Colonel Hale gestured to a chair at the front. "Thank you for coming." Aiden sat calmly. Hale introduced him briefly. Nothing classified, nothing unnecessary. Just the truth that Aiden had led teams through missions requiring impeccable judgment, compassion, and responsibility. Then Hale stepped aside. "I'll let Mr. Cross speak." Aiden cleared his throat softly. "I'm not here to talk about medals or missions," he began. "Those things, belonged to history, not to me. He paused, choosing each word carefully. I want to talk about humility and choices. Bella watched him, her chest tightening as she absorbed each quiet, steady syllable. When I left the service, Aiden continued, I thought the world didn't need anything I had left to give. I thought my story ended when I took off the uniform. He glanced at his hands that once guided soldiers through chaos, now used to tie Lily's shoes and pack her lunches. But yesterday reminded me of something important. Respect isn't only about rank or ribbons. It's about how we treat the people standing right in front of us. Alex looked down, guilt burning through him. Aiden continued, You're all going to serve under leaders who push you, challenge you. But also, you'll meet people who appear ordinary, who carry histories you can't see. He looked directly at Alex, not accusing, but understanding. Your duty isn't to know everyone's past. Your duty is to treat everyone with dignity. Alex's eyes burned. Aiden softened his voice. And when you fail, the important thing is how you stand up afterward. Alex stood abruptly, voice cracking. Sir, I'm sorry. For yesterday. For everything I said. Aiden nodded calmly. Apology accepted. Alex blinked rapidly, his entire posture straightening with quiet resolve. Martinez placed a hand on his shoulder. Marines lingered, shaking Aiden's hand, thanking him not for his service, but for his wisdom, for his gentleness, for his presence. Bella approached last. You were incredible, she said softly. Aiden shook his head. Just honest. That's why it mattered, Bella replied. Honesty is rare around here. They walked outside together. The sky was turning purple with dusk. Lily spotted them and ran over. Daddy Miss Marine Bella knelt so she was eye level with Lily. Hi, firecracker. Lily hugged her impulsively. Bella's heart melted on the spot. Aiden raised a brow, amused. That's new. She's easy to love, Bella said softly. Aiden looked at Bella. Really looked, and for the first time, something warm flickered between them. Something that wasn't just respect or gratitude. Something that felt like the beginning of healing. For both of them. The next few weeks at Camp Ridgeway unfolded quietly, touched by the gentle shift Aiden's presence had brought. The story of the tent freeze had become less of a rumor and more of a quiet reminder passed from Marine to Marine of humility, respect, and the weight carried by those who never asked for recognition. Yet life in all its steady rhythm continued. Aiden settled into his routine, walking Lily to her art classes, volunteering at the community center, occasionally helping the motor pool troubleshoot old Humvees. He tried to keep things simple, predictable, peaceful. But Bella Seavey kept appearing in the edges of that peace, slipping into his days, like sunlight, through a half-open curtain, uninvited, unexpected, and impossible to ignore. She wasn't trying to intrude. But something about the man she had misjudged stirred her curiosity, and something far deeper. And something about Bella's spirit, strong, sincere, wounded in places she hid behind discipline, stirred something in Aiden he had not felt in years. Lily insisted on bringing Aiden homemade cookies during her break. She tugged his hand toward the picnic tables behind the community center, proudly holding a plastic container decorated with stickers. Miss Marine's gonna love these, she declared. Let's see if she's even here. Aiden chuckled. She was. Bella sat on a bench, still in PT gear, sipping water after a long training session. Her posture relaxed when she spotted them, and something warm flickered across her expression. Well, hello, firecracker, Bella said as Lily ran up to her. I made cookies, Daddy helped, but I did most of it. Bella laughed. Then they're definitely better than the chow hall. Aiden approached, slower, his calm presence grounding the moment. Bella stood to greet him. Afternoon? Aiden. Bella, he nodded. Training day. Every day is training day, she said with a smirk. Keeps me sane." Aiden smiled faintly. He understood that kind of discipline, the need for routine to quiet the mind. Lily opened the container and held a cookie up toward Bella. "This one's extra chocolatey. It's the best." Bella bent down, letting Lily place the cookie in her hand. "Thank you. I'll eat it carefully so I don't lose your trust." Aiden chuckled. "That's a lot of pressure." Bella looked up at him playfully. "I can handle pressure." Aiden opened his mouth to respond, but Lily interrupted, tugging Bella's hand insistently. "Come see my drawing. It's a snake, like yours." Bella raised a brow at Aiden. Permission to be dragged away. "Permission." "Granted," he said with a soft smile. Bella let Lily lead her across the field toward the community center doors, glancing back at Aiden once, with a look he hadn't seen before, but felt deeply. A mix of gratitude, admiration, and something shimmering underneath. Aiden worked on his old Jeep in the driveway of his small on-base housing unit. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the asphalt. Lily sat on the porch step, coloring with chalk. Aiden wiped sweat from his forehead. The engine had been stalling, and he wanted to fix it before the next week's errands. "You need help." The voice made him look up. Bella stood there, hands on her hips, wearing jeans, a simple fitted t-shirt, and the same confident posture that marked her as a Marine no matter what she wore. But there was softness in her eyes, something almost shy. "Didn't peg you for a mechanic," Aiden said lightly. "I didn't peg you for a man who could silence an entire tent," Bella replied with a teasing smile. Aiden paused, then laughed, a sound he didn't often make. Bella's heart caught unexpectedly at the sight. "Want to join?" he asked, stepping aside. Bella slid next to him, examining the Jeep's engine with surprising interest. "Okay, what are we looking at?" "Fuel filters clogged," Aiden said. "Probably just age catching up." "Happens to all of us," Bella muttered. "Even Marines." Aiden glanced sideways, noticing the faint bruise on her forearm from training exercises. "Rough week." Bella shrugged. "Just push the recruits a bit harder." "They need it." "And you?" Aiden asked quietly. Bella hesitated, then said, "I push myself harder than I push them." Aiden nodded, tightening a bolt. Why, Bella opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "To outrun the feeling that I'm not enough." Aiden's hand stilled. Bella blinked, surprised she'd spoken it out loud. She stared at the engine face hidden in shadow. Aiden spoke softly. "You're harder on yourself than anyone else ever could be." "Comes with the job," she muttered. "No," Aiden said. "It comes from being someone who cares too much." Bella met his eyes. The sincerity in his voice, the way he said it not as a judgment, but as an understanding, hit her deeper than she expected. "You see through people way too easily," she whispered. "Not through." Aiden corrected gently. "Just enough to see what they're trying to hide." Bella exhaled a breath, released from a place she didn't know was tight. Lily peeked from the porch, giggling. "Daddy Miss Marine likes you," Bella choked on air. Aiden's eyes widened. "Lily," he muttered, rubbing his forehead. "What?" "It's true," Lily declared plainly, then skipped back to her chalk drawing. Silence fell awkward, warm, and charged with a truth neither adult dared to address. Aiden cleared his throat. "Sorry about that." Bella shook her head, cheeks pink. "She's honest. Too honest sometimes." They both laughed, soft, shy, shared. Bella shifted her foot on the gravel. "Aiden, can I ask you something?" "Of course." She looked at him with a vulnerability she didn't show anyone else. "Do you think people can start over? Even after they mess up? Even after they've spent years being harder on themselves than the world ever was?" Aiden didn't hesitate. "Yes," he said. "If they let themselves." Bella's breath stilled. He continued, voice gentle but certain. Starting over isn't forgetting the past. It's choosing not to let it define what comes next. Bella looked at him, really looked, and something changed inside her. Something opened. Then Aiden added, barely above a whisper, "And for what it's worth, you already began." Bella's pulse quickened. She stepped closer. Not touching? Not yet. But close enough that the air felt different. Close enough to show the choice she was making. "Aiden," she said softly, "can I earn a second chance? A chance to be part of whatever this is?" Aiden's eyes softened, warm, deep, steady. He didn't rush, didn't pull away. Instead, he said the words she needed most. "You already did, Bella." The porch light flickered on. Lily drew hearts around their feet with chalk. The evening settled into a quiet warmth neither wanted to break. And in that fragile, beautiful moment, a love that neither sought, that neither expected, began to bloom. The morning sun rose softly over Camp Ridgeway, casting a warm, golden wash across the parade field. Today was Special Founding Day, the annual celebration of the base's establishment. Flags fluttered, gently speakers were being set up, and Marines moved with crisp precision as families gathered for the ceremony. Aiden Cross stood near the edge of the field, with Lily both dressed neatly for the occasion. Lily wore a navy blue dress and held a tiny American flag that matched the big one waving high above them. Aiden wore a clean button-down shirt sleeves rolled to his forearms, the simplest clothes, but somehow he still carried the quiet dignity of a man who had once walked through fire. Lily looked around excitedly. "Daddy, do you think Miss Marine will come?" "She'll be here," Aiden said without doubt. He didn't know how he knew, he simply did. And he was right. Bella Seavey approached from across the field wearing her dress blues. Her posture was perfect, but her expression softened the moment her eyes found Aiden and Lily. Lily ran to her. Miss Marine Bella bent down and hugged her tightly. "Good morning, Firecracker." Aiden smiled as they returned. Bella's gaze met his steady, warm, full of something unspoken, something that had been growing quietly between them these past weeks, something that felt like the beginning of a future neither of them had expected. "You look very sharp today," Aiden said. Bella raised an eyebrow. "Are you flirting with a Marine?" Mr. Cross Aiden's smile widened just a touch. "I might be." Lily giggled. "You like each other." Lily Aiden murmured, gently mortified. Bella laughed, cheeks warming. "It's all right." Before anything more could be said, a voice boomed over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats for the ceremony." The crowd shifted. Aiden, Bella, and Lily took seats together near the front. Colonel Hale stood at the podium, his uniform immaculate, his posture dignified. "Thank you all for joining us for this year's Founding Day celebration," Hale began. "Today we honor not just the history of Camp Ridgeway, but the values that built it: courage, humility, service, and the bond between military and community." Aiden listened quietly, Lily leaning against his arm. Bella sat beside him, hands folded neatly, occasionally glancing his way when she thought he wouldn't notice. But he noticed. He felt her presence like warmth on a cold morning. Hale's speech continued until he paused his expression, shifting to something more personal. "There is a story I'd like to share," he said. "Many of you have heard bits and pieces, but today I want to tell it in full." Bella inhaled sharply. Aiden stiffened slightly. Hale continued. "A few weeks ago, during our annual open house event, something happened inside one of our GP tents, something that reminded every Marine present of the importance of humility." The crowd listened intently. Hale's voice lowered, enriched with reverence. "A quiet single dad walked through our tent. No rank insignia, no badges, just a worn uniform and a child by his side. Some of our Marines, well-meaning but impulsive, teased him, asked for his rank. A murmur rippled through the audience. Hale held up a hand. What they didn't know, what none of us knew, was that this man once stood at the head of one of the most elite units ever assembled. Bella watched Aiden's face, the small tightening of his jaw, the faint sigh as he accepted the attention he never wanted. He didn't respond with anger. Hale continued. He didn't respond with pride. He simply answered truthfully when pressed. The last person who asked for his rank was the commander of the Joint Task Force. A gasp moved through the seated crowd, and when his record flashed on our system, Hale said softly, the entire tent froze. Aiden closed his eyes briefly, feeling Lily take his hand tightly. Hale smiled gently. But what mattered more wasn't the man he once was, a commander, a war hero, a man with medals most Marines only read about. He looked directly at Aiden. What mattered was the man he is now. Aiden's breath caught. A father, Hale said. A mentor. A man who still teaches by example, humility, kindness, and grace. Bella felt her throat tighten and blinked rapidly, swallowing back emotion. And so Hale concluded, let this story be a reminder. Never judge a person by what you think they are. Judge them by how they carry themselves. And never forget that some of the greatest heroes simply want to live quietly. Applause rose, heartfelt, sincere, swelling across the field like a warm wave. Aiden exhaled deeply, moved but steady. Lily pulled on his sleeve. Daddy, are you okay? He smiled down at her. Yes, sweetheart. I'm perfect. Bella leaned closer, her voice soft. You deserved that. I didn't want it, he murmured. Bella shook her head gently. Sometimes, the world needs to say thank you, even if you don't ask. Lily climbed into Aiden's lap, wrapping her small arms around his torso, grounding him, anchoring him. Then, in a single simple moment, Bella's hand brushed lightly against his. Aiden didn't pull away. He turned his hand over and intertwined his fingers with hers. Bella inhaled sharply, her cheeks flushing slightly, but she didn't withdraw. Their hands remained together, warm and steady, a silent promise. And Colonel Hale, watching from the podium, smiled knowingly. As the ceremony ended, families mingled. Children played. The sun shone bright and warm. Aiden, Bella, and Lily walked together across the field. For the first time, they looked unmistakably like a small, forming family. Lily ran ahead toward a lemonade stand. Bella and Aiden followed more slowly. Bella said softly, I'm glad you didn't walk through that tent alone that day. He looked at her, his voice low and steady. I'm glad you walked back. Bella smiled, warm, real hopeful. And now, she asked quietly. Aiden glanced at Lily, laughing in the distance. He squeezed Bella's hand. Now he said, we see where this goes. Bella's eyes softened. Together, Aiden nodded. If you'll walk with us. She answered without hesitation. Always. The three of them walked forward into the sunlight, into the future, into something that felt like healing, like hope, like a new beginning shaped not by rank or reputation, but by kindness and the grace of second chances. Behind them, the GP tent stood quietly in the distance, a simple canvas shelter that had witnessed the moment everything changed. The day it froze, and the day 3 hearts began to melt. Before we end today's story, we'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from? Feel free to share your city or country in the comments. It's always a blessing to see how far our little community reaches. And if this story touched your heart, inspired you, or simply brought a moment of peace to your day, we warmly invite you to like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting stories just like this one. Thank you truly for spending your time with us today. Your presence here means more than you know. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to see you in the next story.